Hello and welcome to another interview for my blog and podcast, A Rich Comic Life. My name is Richard Gill and my blog describes my experiences of watching over 1,700 comedians for over 50 years. I'm delighted to welcome back my special guest. It's Mr. Gary Morecambe. Yay!
Thank you.
Hello, nice to see you again. Thank you so much for doing this.
It's nice to be back again, which is
And
great.
a perfect time. We're recording this at Christmas. It's 4 days to go before Christmas 2025, and it's going to be released onto the podcast next week. So it'll be over Christmas. Perfect time
Brilliant.
to talk about the career of your wonderful dad and the greatest comedy double act ever, Morecambe and Wise. Thank
Brilliant.
you so
Thank
much
you.
for doing this again. So we're going to start off, and I'm going to ask you, what were the formative influences on Eric Morecambe and Ernie Wise's early comedy styles before they became a double act?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, sorry.
Sorry, carry on. I was just going to say, what I'm trying to find out is I want to try and find more out. I want to try and find out more about the influence of Sadie on the act, Eric's mum, and things
Yes.
like that.
Well, I think the influence of Sadie is more important than the influence of other comedians.
Yeah.
Funny enough, because I think everyone who knows Morecambe and Wise knows that Abbott and Costello probably got the ball rolling for them,
Yeah.
and then Laurel and Hardy came in and really remained with them right up until my father's death, all those years. So they were on a kind of pedestal, Laurel and Hardy, for them right through their careers. But, those influences are very important, obviously, because that's how they started. And then they found their own shape and form and all that. But it was probably Sadie that was key to encouraging them to go out and do that, maybe even to emulate other people like Laurel and Hardy.
Yeah.
So it was that personal drive within the family, I think. And she treated Ernie like another son, remember? So he was under that same umbrella of influence. So I think it was the three of them.
Just explain how they got together in the first place, because she was particularly influential in getting them together, wasn't she?
She was after it happened. I mean, it happened by accident because Ernie was already, Ernie was a child star. He was working at the West End with Arthur Askey. So Ernie was kind of there. And Eric then did an audition. Having won local talent competitions, he got auditioned in Manchester for Jack Hilton and Brian Mickey. And Ernie was at that as a boy because they said to him, come and watch this young chap, see what you think.
Wow.
Excuse me. And of course, the rest is history in their case, because they then became friends. Not immediately, they were doing solo acts. But again, it was Sadie on a train journey who said to them, why don't you stop emulating other people, which is what they were doing on journeys, and then actually, do your own material, do your own stuff. Well, they stole material. They didn't do their own material, but it was very much in that kind of transatlantic voices, especially Ernie. I don't think Ernie ever quite dropped that, actually. It's that American sound. But anyway, that was the influence and how it all started, to answer your question.
It was so good to see the wonderful Victoria Wood write the
Yes.
the TV film and play her. Because she seemed to be obviously a very formidable character to get them together, or to advise them that it would be very beneficial. She could clearly see something there.
Yes, I mean, I knew Sadie as my grandmother, and I wouldn't have said she was remotely formidable.
I was going to say, what was she like?
She was quite a soft touch, to be honest. But what she had is she was very
astute.
She had wide vision. She realized where they were living, where they came from, and that for her son to have this bigger existence, which is what she wanted, or as she put it, she didn't want him tied to a whistle like his dad. And I thought that was a lovely expression.
Yeah,
so she wanted him to create his own success story, and she knew that ain't going to happen in Morecambe. No. So she encouraged him to get out there. And when she saw he had that little bit of talent, and that Ernie could deal with Eric and put up with him and work with him. I think she saw that more as a great release. So that was where this kind of image of the formidable mother pushing, but she wasn't really. It was more a case of just getting rid of, I think, rather than encouraging. I'm not sure trying to put a more negative picture on this, but a more realistic picture. I think she just wanted them to get out and do something.
There's a very early famous shot of your dad with like the kiss curl and the lollipop singing "I'm Not All There."
Not all there. That really was a start. Yeah.
Yeah. That must have been way back.
Oh, yeah. That was must have been like late 30s. Yeah.
Yeah. How did their partnership first come about then, and what were the challenges they faced in the early years working together?
Well, it came about, as we've said, because then Sadie said, "Why don't you start doing your own stuff?"
Yeah.
And Jack Hilton and Brian Mickey were particularly supportive of that idea. So they encouraged them to then do their own spot, as long as they kept their solo spots. So I think it was August 1941, Liverpool Empire. They went out as Bartholomew and Wise, and that was the start. And of course, what derailed it, as things were slowly picking up, was the war, Second World War. So that came along, and then they lost each other, completely went off in different directions, and purely by accident bumped into each other after the war in Regent Street in London. And I think Ernie wasn't very pleased about that. But he was happily getting on with his more song and dance type of life that he was leading. But Sadie was very determined and just said, "Look, come on, give it a go." But my God, it took a long time after that to give it a go. It still took several years before they started getting any decent work.
Eric famously went down the mines during the war.
Oh, yeah.
What did Ernie do in the war? Was he on the seas or something?
Yeah, he was on the sea. He was on. It was literally Newcastle and Cole, I think, was his run.
Right. Right.
So he was up and down the North Sea probably. And,
but it's fascinating that they just saw each other together again. Was it in London that they?
Yeah, they literally just walked past each other.
Extraordinary.
Yeah, I mean, Ernie was. They were great to see each other, and Ernie was literally shaking his hand, saying, "Well, lovely to see you, Eric. I must see you again." And Sadie was going like, "Hang on, just a minute here. Why don't you come in and join us in digs here in wherever it was?" So
that's extraordinary.
Ernie, even later on in life, I found Ernie very easy going. Ernie, very easy to get him on side.
Yeah.
So imagine that he was very malleable for Sadie. I think that she soon had him sort of eating out of her hand and doing what she said. And then she left them. They had to then find work and find agents, and that was the hard part. And the fact they endured that for a long period, a year without any work, I think just shows that they probably still knew they had something, something to work with.
Very much so. I mean, it is extraordinary. We talked last time, and it is episode 129 for listeners or viewers want to go back and listen to the first one. We talked last time about the start of the of the career together, but I found it extraordinary that if they hadn't have met in London again, there wouldn't have been a Morecambe and Wise, or it would have been different if they'd have got back together again somehow down the line. Yeah,
it's funny how fate can work out, can't it, like that? Because I don't know what would have been the story if not, type of thing. It's that sliding doors thing, isn't it, in that film?
when unfortunately your dad passed away, just jumping forward, I was often very skeptical. I was delighted that Ernie tried to keep going, and he did. He had a successful career, but they tried to get him together with different people, and it was good, but the magic had completely gone. They created, when they started that career, you can see in the early shows, there was a spark there. So Sadie was right, obviously, getting them together.
But and also you can't recreate the fact that they knew each other as kids. That's what made it.
It's like so brothers, isn't it? Yeah.
So I think at one time they were trying to team Ernie up with Eric Sykes.
Yeah.
So to keep Eric and Ernie, and you do start scratching your head thinking, well, why?
Yeah.
Ernie didn't need to even do that. He
Yeah.
didn't even need to think about that, really.
That's the magic. It's the bond between the two of them,
Yeah,
on top of the sketches, the writing, the performance. But it's the bond that is so endearing to this day.
yeah,
That's why it's still on the TV now. I think that's a reason why.
yes, I agree.
Yeah. Um, could you describe the duo's breakthrough into television, and how did it shape their subsequent career trajectory?
Yeah, well, we had the negative side of that was the Running Wild period, which I think was 1954, was it?
Yeah,
When that was a disaster as such, but it was a disaster then. But
yeah,
they would have learned a lot from that, and they learned that they needed primarily to write their own material or not let other people who didn't know about their relationship and how they would work, not let them do it. But they had no power back then because this was, like we said, it's their breakthrough. So that came and went, and they thought, oh, we won't do TV again, blah blah blah. And then really they started appearing on so many shows as a double act, and then they won Billy Marsh's interest as a theatrical agent, and he had access to Lou Grade, so
yeah.
he could get TV spots for them. It began with. And after about a year of that, he just rang Lou Grade and said, "Look, why didn't you just give them a TV series?" And I think Lou was a little bit dubious about that at first, but I think Billy had a lot of clout as well with different venues, particularly. So I
Billy
think they were
Marsh
scratching
became,
each other's back a bit.
Billy Marsh was their agent, wasn't he?
He
Yeah,
became their agent just on a handshake and got them work straight away, really,
amazing.
and then got them a series. So
Yeah,
that would have been 1961. That would have been the Morecambe and Wise series, and even that, though, wasn't perfect by any means to begin with. But then the strike came along, um, and they were with Variety Artists, I think, but they weren't with Equity.
right.
So everyone fell away. This cast of thousands that was surrounding them all the time fell away, and suddenly they had the opportunity to make these shows without all these people, and that's when Eric and Ernie came out as it's about them. And that was Sid and Dick as well, of course. Sid
Yeah,
Hills, Dick
yeah,
Green. They were
yeah,
writing the material,
yeah.
and that was no looking back for anyone at that point. They realised, but
Well,
it's a
what I
bit
would,
slow. I think it's a bit slow TV to not recognise that it was being on stage together without anyone that made them work. it seems
well,
it
they
seems
were.
easier now to look back.
They had the famous on television. They had the famous curtains behind them
Yes.
because it was still a theatrical look, and I think they wanted that. They knew they were good in that sort of atmosphere.
Yes, I think that's true. And also the curtains, which they kept right through their careers.
Yeah,
That was also a little ironic nod to their days
yeah,
in
yeah,
variety halls. So that I think
yeah,
they
yeah,
wanted to keep that. And then for Eric, it was a great prop as well.
yeah,
He could
yeah.
pretend to strangle himself and things.
Yeah, I love that. And
Yes, so
I
do I.
watched. It was on just the other night. I watched the one where I don't know how he did it, but his head was through the curtains at the
Oh, yes.
bottom, and then he went to the
Yeah,
top, and then he came back, and I love that sketch.
I thought that
And
was
then he's
great as well.
panicking.
Yeah, and that's using the curtains, as we
Yeah, yeah,
say, as a
yeah,
prop.
yeah.
Yeah.
What I find fascinating as well, and please, if I've misquoted this, I do apologise, but I love the fact it was horrible at the time for them, but what the quote, the famous quote, the box they buried Morecambe and Wise in, which became as a result of Running Wild. Is that correct?
Yeah, that
But
was
he,
to do with Running Wild. Yeah.
but he kept that in his wallet all through his
Yes, he did.
career, and he
Yes.
must have thought we're never going to be as bad as this again if that's what they think.
Yeah, and
That's fantastic.
I think it was also a little reminder that where you've come from.
Yeah, yeah,
So that's why he kept it.
yeah.
I remember
Wonderful,
that. Yes, I remember it.
wonderful. As opposed to TV, what role did their work on radio play in developing their comedic timing and rapport?
Oh, huge. I mean, for a start, it introduced them to Johnny Ammons, who became
Yeah,
their producer in TV shows for many years. But no, that was fantastic. They really did learn their timing or really honed it, let's say, because they were good anyway. But yeah, and honing material and having to learn it so quickly because they were doing
that's
the theatre touring all the time, then getting to do the radios, I think, at weekends. So they were literally learning words on trains, which was great. So they
It must
learnt
have
a lot
been.
about, the business, how it worked, and to be on the ball.
It must have been exhausting for them, but it must have been
Yeah.
so joyous.
Yeah,
Um,
I seem to remember my father telling me that, because I talked about those years with him, and he said, what you have to remember is when you've come from nothing, you're not a star, you can't afford to turn anything down. And
yeah,
that almost really became his way of thinking throughout his career, which then went into bad health in a way. But
yeah.
but yeah, he couldn't, he particularly couldn't. You didn't want to turn down any opportunity, you know.
It's funny because these days, if you see people like Peter Kay or Al Murray
Yeah,
or any of the top flight comedians, Michael McIntyre's another one, play in arenas, I often think to myself, well, I was very fortunate to see them at the start of their careers in tiny
yes,
pubs. And they
yeah,
must run on and think, my God, I'm playing to 100,000 people here.
yeah,
This is bizarre. But they
yes.
still are just exactly the same. And I think that's similar to what you're saying before. It's like if you start from nothing, you
Yeah.
just, the only way you can go is up.
Yeah, I'm still not sure about comedy in stadia. I think that
I agree. Yeah.
when you start having to have big screens so that
Yeah.
people further back can see them,
I can't, you can only
where
see a
would
little dot. Yeah.
Eric and Ernie's intimacy have worked with that?
Yeah.
It just wouldn't.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
bit cold for me. But I do understand that we live in a modern world and this is
Yeah.
technology and this is what they can do. So
Yeah.
fair enough, and that's how they make a lot of money as well, the comedians today.
I,
So good
I
luck to them.
totally agree with you. I think comedy is for a tiny space because of the intimacy and you're in the moment
Yeah.
and it's such a joyous thing as I've said many times to be part of. Um, just as
Yeah.
an aside, I went to see my favourite band last night at the O2 Madness, and my legs are killing me this morning because I've been dancing for so long. But they were
You're
like
getting
little
too old to
tiny
stand up
dots.
too long.
It's all right with music, I suppose,
Yeah.
but as a
Oh,
comedian,
music,
it
it
was
works fine.
yeah,
And,
yeah,
how wonderful with music that it does work.
yeah,
But the intimacy of comedy,
yeah,
I don't know. I think Peter Kay, I think they get away with it. I
yeah. They
think it's
do, they
okay.
do. But
These are big, larger than life people,
yeah,
but
yeah,
I'd rather be in a cozy environment with
very
maybe
much so.
200 people.
Yeah,
That'd be
yeah, yeah.
great.
I would have. I've told you many times. I so wish I had been able to see them live. I really do.
Yes.
In a little theatre or a
Oh, it's
decent
wonderful.
sized theatre, it would have been just magical.
Yeah. What?
Um,
No, it was a wonderful time to do that. Honestly,
yeah,
it's great.
yeah, yeah. How did Morecambe and Wise's material evolve over the decades, especially as British comedy tastes have changed or changed over the decades?
I don't think Eric and Ernest comedy changed very much at all because it,
Mm.
it was never about gag telling as such
Yeah.
or anything that was up to date. It was about them always, who loved, out the two of them, did teacher love Eric more than Ernie type of thing. It was all that kind of thing. Who had the best shoes?
Yeah.
And, Ernie criticizing Eric for having kippers for Christmas lunch, which is
I'm with
wonderful.
Eric.
Yeah, wonderful. And Eric would just sort of say, "We like kippers,"
Yeah.
So that was their comedy. So I don't think that dated. What changed was going from the traditional straight man and gormless idiot comedian to being two men who were a bit more about themselves. They knew what was going on, but they were still fools. But they, but they
Yeah.
were a bit kind of crafty fools,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and that was Eddie Braben. That,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
what Eddie Braben gave them. He saw their relationship. He said these are more like brothers. Their comedy should be about their relationship and not about being silly. And he couldn't believe, he said, in Eric and Ernie at the ATV, because he said no one could be that stupid. So I thought that was a very good way of putting it. So suddenly Eric became quite conniving and getting round Ernie somehow, but still was just a fool with it.
What's
And
what's
that worked.
lovely as well that you mentioned that was I loved the fact that Eric could get away with murder talking to Ernie, but if any of the guests said anything,
Yeah.
Eric would be the first to defend Ernie.
He would protect him. I thought that was lovely. That's something that Ben Elton picked up on.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons he said Eric and Ernie were his favourite was because of that protection, that almost sitcom type relationship they had, which came out through the bedroom routines and the flat. That created this sort of relationship where Ernie had pretensions to be a great, writer, like what Shakespeare was.
Every one of those plays worked.
but it was wonderful because Eric was puncturing it the whole time, as you rightly say. Then someone else would come into the scene, and Eric suddenly started protecting Ernie, which I think is wonderful. Really,
it's so good. It
shows friendship.
What I think stands them out, and another reason is when the so-called alternative boom came along in the 80s. A lot of the 70s comedians were, what's the word? Not left aside, but
they kind of were. Really,
they were.
Yeah.
But it's a testament to your dad and Ernie and Les Dawson and Ken Dodd and the two Ronnies and a few more, that they were so good that the alternative comedians respected them.
Yes, they did,
and that's
so true.
That was great. Yeah.
That's very, very true. And of course, Ben Elton made a very salient point. He said that if you talk about alternative comedy, there was no one more alternative than Eric and Ernie because of their weird conversations about childhood and things and where they came from and Ada Bailey and all that sort of stuff. It was all so surreal, which came out of Eddie Braben's brain. But so surreal that was alternative, as Ben put it, and I think that's a very good point he made.
I saw a comedian about a year ago, and when he was on stage, a police car went past, and he said the famous Eddie Braben line from the bed sketch.
Oh, interesting.
About he's selling.
He went so much ice cream going at that.
and I think I was one of the few older gentlemen, shall we say, in the audience who got it when it originally went out. And he went, "Yes, Rich, I'm a big fan too." And it's extraordinary that it's not extraordinary because they're the reason why, as I've said before, this blog and podcast exists. They were so perfectly honed in what they were trying to do, and just succeeded, and that they're part of British culture, and they always will be.
I hope so. I really do.
Yeah, very much so. What was the creative process like behind their iconic Christmas specials, and how did they approach writing and rehearsals?
Well, the Christmas specials, that was always what they worked on all year. So even though they were doing series all the time, the Christmas specials were in the back of their minds constantly.
Yeah.
And if they did something that they thought was really good or came out in rehearsals, they said to Eddie, "I think that we need to save that for a Christmas show. It's too good, too good." And Eddie would agree, and that would then get separated, and then another script brought in to fill in for the TV slot. So they were started. I think Eddie Braben once said to me they started in June.
Wow.
So, ready for Christmas.
And you think Christmas ordinarily starts in September, and you think...
I know. It's bizarre. Beginning of the summer. And then
to go back in June. Yeah, so they must have recorded some of the Christmas show in the summer.
Not recorded, but they would have had some of the scripts to rehearse.
Yeah,
just to keep a look at. But they never dived right into it, not until probably the end of September, October.
Yeah.
That's when, and then they recorded, I always think it was late November, I think, they were recording. But so for half the year, they were kind of in Tinseltown, really. Crackers.
Brilliant.
It must have been very odd sort of feeling. And I remember going to the recordings in November, and I remember Johnny Ammons would have to come on at the beginning and say, "Now, say to the audience, now look, just remember it's Christmas now, okay? Pretend we're at Christmas Day, because that's when it's going out." So everyone had to pretend it was Christmas Day. And they all got the feel for it. It was all a bit weird, a bit surreal, but it worked.
Tell me more about Johnny Ammons and Ernest Maxim. How did they get in the mix?
John came from the radio days and was a good producer for Eric and Ernie. Johnny always wanted to do other stuff, though. I think, he did so many years with Eric and Ernie, and they were brilliant shows.
Yeah,
And Ernest had already been pulled in because Eric and Ernie had heard about Ernest, and they knew him, and they'd seen his work on the musical side. And both Eric and Ernie wanted to get more of a musical element into the shows, which of course became huge for Morecambe and Wise. So they wanted Ernest to do that. So for some years, Johnny was producing, Ernest was choreographer. And then when Johnny said, "Well, I want to try out a few other series," there's no problem, because he came back in the end. He went off to do that. And Ernest basically got promoted from choreographer to producer, but still kept all the music in. So that's when you got all the dancing newscasters and all the rest of it. That was Ernest taking control,
yeah, yeah.
which was brilliant because it needed. Eric and Ernie came from a musical background.
Of course.
So
yeah,
it was a lovely sort of change of gear.
Yeah. What is wonderful as well was the two Ronnies were similar, where the shows were structured. So you had a news item with the two Ronnies, then you had a musical number, then you had a sketch, and it was similar with Morecambe and Wise.
Yes.
And the way that they built up the shows. Tell me more about how they would decide what would go in and what would go out of a show. Do you know anything like about this?
Um, I wouldn't say what would go in, what would go out. I think that it was much more straightforward than that. Eddie Braidman would just be given some blank pieces of paper and told to write a show.
Yeah.
And then Eric and Ernie would go through it, and I think according to Eddie, sometimes they put loads of crosses through things and that.
Yeah.
But they built their relationship so that then they could all tweak it a bit.
Yeah.
They could all add bits. For example, Ernie, of all people, really coming up with a whole stripper routine for breakfast. That was all Ernie.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So
that's one
Ernie,
of the most famous.
and the others all thumbing up. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
And then Ernest then going away and recreating it in his kitchen at home. Which I thought was great. In the middle of the night, rather strangely, he suddenly had this
incredible.
idea. So that's how some of the bits came in. But because of the shows being, as you pointed out, the shows were crafted. So they had a beginning, middle, and end. This would happen, that would happen, and that would happen. Song at the end, and out they go. It was more about Eddie would send in a bit of a script and say, "This is for the opening. This is for the midsection in front of tabs. This is before you do the number at the end. This is what we could do with such and such a guest star if you can get them." So they were very kind of worked on it in advance. And then you have to work with the idea that Eddie and maybe Eric and Ernie have a great idea for a play. One of Ernest's plays what he wrote.
Yeah.
And then the guest star suddenly can't do it because of other work. So suddenly you're having to think, well, will another person work in that particular play, or do we have to completely rewrite it and save that one for another show? So there's a lot that had to go on. But I think working for a team made it a lot easier, the team effort.
It's so interesting because, as you say, they were a team. There was about 4 or 5 of them. Whereas, for example, with the two Ronnies, I was very fortunate enough to meet Ronnie Corbett.
Yeah, lovely man.
And he was talking about the writing process, and they had joke tellers going in or writing in every week, and they would then, no, we're not using that, or they'd have a system where they would decide which jokes would go in. And I wondered if it was similar, as I said earlier, with the sketches or whatever, but because there's only a team there, as you say, Eddie Braben, at the height of the fame, wrote it. And we're going to come on in a minute more to about all the writers, but it was just such a great team effort that
I think also though, Richard, with the two Ronnies, Ronnie Barker was such a wordsmith in his own right. And he loved playing with the words and the innuendo of words. That I think that was probably much more important, that they pumped everything in each week and considered what could stay or go. With Eric and Ernie, when it's about a relationship, that's much more of a tenuous thing, isn't it? It's trickier to handle. and
Yeah.
what are they going to bring about their relationship to this week's show? That was more important. That was what will we learn about their past, or
Yeah.
their
Yeah.
imagined past.
Yeah.
So that was more what they were being written about. That was what Eddie had to come up with.
Fascinating. And when they were rehearsing, did your dad use you as Ernie Wise at home to rehearse his lines at all?
Only once, and I was so bad that was it.
I don't believe that for 1 minute.
I was actually. I was terrible. I couldn't really read the print, so I was doing Ernest's bit and getting it well. And after a while, he said, "I tell you what, you go and have a lie down. I'll carry on." So I said, "Oh, okay."
So all the rehearsals were done in a rehearsal room, presumably.
Yeah, they both rehearsed on their own at home. I mean, my father would walk around the garden just reading the script and
Right.
acting out bits as well.
Right.
And I'm sure Ernie did the same. So when they got into the rehearsal rooms, because they deliberately over-rehearsed everything, they wanted it to look absolutely second nature. And then, as my father said, the moment they came off the cameras at the end of recording, all the words went out of his head. Couldn't have done it again. They're all forgotten.
That's extraordinary, because I read it was similar with Frankie Howard. Every ooh and ah was in the script.
Interesting, isn't it?
That's extraordinary.
Yeah.
Because you just don't know how you're going to be on the day or whatever. But if it's all there, and you have to rehearse and rehearse,
exactly,
and you've got to fine hone it. Fascinating. Let's move on. So, in what ways we've mentioned Eddie Braben, but the question is, in what ways did their collaborations with writers such as Eddie Braben influence the tone and success of their shows? And in particular, can you tell me about the different writers that they had and what happened to them? Because they had some fantastic writers.
Well, they did. I mean, as we said earlier, it started with Sid and Dick.
Yeah. Tell me more about those.
Sid Green, Dick Hills. They were two guys who'd been at school together and got into writing, basically. And they started getting a good reputation. Not sure of their working history, but they ended up with Eric and Ernie, which pleased Billy Marsh, I remember, and Grade. So they went straight in and started writing very good sort of traditional double act scripts.
Yeah.
I mean, the ATV shows are still very funny.
Yeah.
And they really were. So, but it was in that old traditional sense. I mean, if you want a sense of nostalgia, they're great shows. But what Eddie Braben then did was, as we said, he went for their relationship. So suddenly, and they were in colour TV suddenly. So suddenly they're still there today and they're still as sharp as ever, talking about a non-existent past, really.
Yeah.
And that's what works. So that's what each set of writers gave to them. And then before that, going back into the 1950s, 40s, they just stole material, as Eric said. They would hear gags and use other people's gags. Which went on constantly. I don't think the plagiarism existed back then. That's how they all operated. So, and again, it was very traditional, funny man, straight man scenario. So it went through a huge change, obviously. Once ATV finished, they moved to the BBC. The huge change was Eddie. I mean, you have to put it down to Eddie Braben. And the fact that Eric and Ernie refused to do the show that Eddie had written. They said, we think it's very funny, but that's not us. That's not a double act. And luckily for Eddie Braben, Bill Cotton was head of light entertainment at the BBC then. He disagreed. He said, no, I think Ed is right. I think this is a step forward.
That's fantastic.
And that's great. So they said, okay, well, we'll give it a go. And of course, they loved it. From the first show that went out and was so well received, that was the beginning of the era that would see them out, even without Eddie at times. Because Eddie, of course, he couldn't move to Thames later on straight away.
Yeah.
He was tied to BBC contract. So they had to use other writers, which was fine, but it was still written in the Eddie style. In my opinion, just not as well. But
Yeah. He was very influential to them. I've got a book by Eddie Braben about his time writing with Morecambe and Wise.
Oh, nice!
He was known as the third member of Morecambe and Wise.
Oh, absolutely.
It must have been, if you can imagine, if they've got to do a Christmas show every year, how is he going to top the last one? And the stress of writing
He
it
found that
must
very
have been
difficult, Eddie. And well, he had a breakdown in
destroying.
the end. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, horrible.
Yeah, he
But
collapsed and he sort of disappeared for a year, really.
oh,
Yeah.
it must have been
But
so stressful to because the Christmas shows in particular were every sketch was superbly crafted and honed and
mm,
written and delivered. And
yeah,
how do you top the next one?
I know. But
Yeah.
Eddie Braben's daughter told me that she remembered getting up to go to school and saying goodbye to her dad, who was sitting looking at his typewriter, just looking at it with a blank piece of paper like this.
Wow.
And she came back from school and he hadn't been able to type one word. He still sat there, just tapping his lip.
That's extraordinary.
And then you get up other times, she said, at 2 a.m, she'd hear the typewriter just going and he'd be flowing with ideas. So it probably wasn't a very healthy way to live, but he came up with the scripts, you know.
Yeah, was it him that infamously said to them when they were arguing about whether or not they should be in bed together, and he said if Laurel and Hardy can do it, as you said, they were so influential,
Yeah.
you can do it, and they said
That,
okay, we'll try it.
yeah, they would know. It was very clever of Eddie to do
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Get their
Because
heroes on his side. Yeah,
when they
yeah, that's
when they're
right.
when they're in bed, Ernie's reading the book and Eric's reading the Beano, and he's
I know, I
talking
love
about
that.
Desperate
Yeah.
Dan.
Desperate Dan and Ern, yes, and Ernest on about the stock market. It's
Yeah.
great.
and I love it where he walks in and he has to he throws a pair of trousers onto the floor, and he goes, they're not mine, they're yours.
Yeah, that's right. Ernie says that's terrible. Yeah. They're
And
not
this is
mine, they're
all
yours.
Eddie
Yeah.
Braben, of
Oh,
course.
totally, totally.
Yeah, yeah.
Eddie dealing with people that are, to all intents and purposes, they're brothers,
Yeah,
and then building these little sort of vignettes around it,
yeah,
how they treat each other, but always underlined by the sense of real love for each other,
yeah, of course. Yeah,
which
yeah,
is great.
yeah.
And
The other
the bed
genius.
sharing works so well because that goes back to the literal days of when they were on the road,
Yeah,
staying in digs,
yeah,
where
yeah.
you'd have to just share a bed. You couldn't have two rooms or anything like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
So it's that.
What is also particularly great about his writing and his thinking was to give Ernie the role of the playwright. So
Yeah.
Ernie was a fantastic and was a fantastic straight man, but to give him a role gave him a lot more depth,
Oh,
and
totally.
it elevated them
Well,
even more.
Eddie said he had to do very little with Eric's character
Mm,
at all, really,
mm,
because Eric had great timing, was very funny, and the public
yeah,
loved him. That
yeah,
was very easy.
yeah,
But Ernie, he spent a lot more time on trying to create this bigger character,
yeah,
which was great because Ernie really did take a seismic step forward from the ATV days as the feed,
yeah,
basically,
yeah.
as kind of cocky Noah or feed, which is what you saw in variety halls, to suddenly being this rather, I don't know, how could you describe him?
Sweet.
Well, he was sweet. He was suddenly sweet and cuddly, but also he had these kind of dreams of being this great writer, and believed he was, but you knew that underneath it all, he didn't believe it. But, but he was just wanting to believe it. And Eric went along with it. When other people were there, he went along with it, but on his own, he just couldn't help but keep puncturing it.
Yeah.
So that was a lovely development Eddie did. Eddie saw grey areas to play with. So Ernie, he could puncture the pomposity of Ernie through Eric, and that's what worked so well and so beautiful. But really, there was still the same two souls were together.
Very
and
much
that's
so.
so lovely.
Very much so.
Yeah.
You said the word pomposity. It reminded me of the wonderful moment. As I think I said to you last time, my favourite parts of watching Morecambe and Wise, my favourite bits of them are when they make each other laugh unintentionally.
Yeah.
And there's one where Ernie Wise is there. He goes, ladies and gentlemen, we have a very special guest tonight, Sir Lawrence and the curtain opens, and Eric goes, "He can't come. Do your dancing or do whatever." And he was so pompous, he starts doing it.
Do your Jimmy
It's
Cagney
brilliant,
impression.
and he's laughing away. And he's at pantomime in Bradford.
Yes, it's wonderful, isn't it? That
So good. And this was the thing. It was clearly, and I love this about your dad. How far can I take it? How far can I make it before he corpses?
Yes.
I love that,
Yes.
and he loved it as well. You can see on screen.
Totally.
Yeah,
I agree with you. I do love the bits where you know that this has gone off script a
Yeah.
bit now.
Yeah.
I love that when that happens.
I think I said last time there's a great Robin Hood pantomime sketch, and Eric is clearly bored, and the camera is 3D on, and Eric just looks round and sees the camera and grins, and then all of them stop and
Oh
grin.
yes.
And all five of them. I think
Francis Matthews was one of them. The
that
actor.
was genius.
Yeah, that was wonderful. So they're
Yeah.
all doing it. That was so clever.
That was so good, and just and I love Penelope Keith walking down the staircase.
Yes.
And when he's trying dignity at all times, and she, while she's coming down, she can't stop laughing.
Yeah, I know.
And that was wonderful.
And I love the whole cheapskateness of that as well. Yeah. They haven't got enough money at the BBC to fund the staircase.
Yeah. But then of course we talked about this last time, but the Andre Previn sketch, which is widely regarded, rightly so, as one of the greatest sketches ever written.
Yeah.
And I think Eddie Braben said, "I'll never write anything better." What was so good about that was how not stern, but how serious Andre Previn is all the way through it. And
Brilliant.
And I think your dad said, if you laugh, it's not going to work.
That's correct. Yeah, they said you've got to do it for real.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we're just doing an in joke.
Yeah.
No, that's absolutely correct. And my God, Andre Previn did it to perfection, didn't he? He really was this amazing conductor who turned up under false pretenses, as he said.
Mr. Preview.
Then Previn.
That's Eddie Braben again, I would think. Yeah.
Yes.
Amazing.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
What I wanted to ask you, at the end of the credits, it always says additional material by Morecambe and Wise.
Yeah.
So they must have had. So Eddie Braben's done his script, or whoever's writing for them's done the script. Yeah. They have a script meeting, and they would throw in asides, or
Eddie Braben used to always say he would do the script, and Eric and Ernie would make it better.
Right.
That's how he worded it, which was very nice and generous of him. But Eric and Ernie would have done, because they knew from their long history on stage together what needed to be tweaked. Otherwise you could give the script to anyone, but it had to really have their stamp.
It's the brotherly thing again, and the warmth, and how did Eric and Ernie's dynamic differ from other double acts of their era, and what made their partnership distinctive? I think we've said that the warmth and the brotherly aspect to it.
And I think they rehearsed harder as well. I think than most. Ernie would say because they didn't fall out, which was the demise of most double acts.
That's a lot of them. Yeah.
Although some fell out and got back together, like Tommy Cannon and Bobby Ball.
I was just thinking of them. Yeah.
And Tom's a good friend of mine. I still see. We still meet up. And we have great lunches.
I met him. He's a lovely bloke.
Oh, lovely man. And we talk about those days, and
I'd love him to come on here, but yeah.
Oh, he'd be good. You should get him on.
Yeah.
Because
I'm going to ask him.
They had a bit of a breakup, and they realised that was pointless in the end, and just got back together again. And I think that, fortunately for Eric and Ernie, they never did that. They just stayed together and always protected each other. Which was wonderful, and that's probably why it worked so well. And then my mother pointed out something as well, which she died a couple of years ago now, but way back she said to me, what's amazing about your father, and it's for just randomness really, she said, but everyone loved him. And it's true, everyone we met, they all just loved him. So he became part of the family. Just from being there.
It was just. There's a lot of aspects as to why we loved him, but I think it's just the warmth on the screen.
I think so.
He's just so joyous.
Yes, the
and
sincerity.
I met your sister, and said to her, I can't remember whether I've told you this, but I once saw Dave Allen on TV talking about them, and he said, whenever I think of Morecambe and Wise, I smile, and that's
Oh,
all you need to do.
yes.
That's all through all the difficulties in the world and everything.
Yeah.
You put Morecambe and Wise on, you've seen it a million times.
Yeah.
There is something else you find
In it.
watching them
Yeah.
that is magical.
But I saw
And
that this Christmas, Ant
yeah,
and Dec were interviewed in one of the
yeah,
supplements, and they said, what would you watch at Christmas? And they both said Morecambe and Wise.
without a doubt.
But they said it's not that, you know, I don't know any of it. He said I know all of it,
Mm.
but I just need it at Christmas. I
Yeah,
need
yeah, yeah,
that warmth. I just
yeah,
need to see them because I always feel better. Christmas isn't the same without watching them. And I thought, wow, that's really nice from them being a different
yeah,
generation as
yeah.
well.
It's
So,
very,
that
very
that's lovely
special,
to
and I
hear.
think they're timeless. That's the other thing as well. They're
Yeah, I think you're
timeless.
right. It's starting to look that way.
Yeah,
It's starting to
yeah,
look like people just, particularly at Christmas,
yeah,
it's just they are part of Christmas.
yeah, yeah, without a doubt. Yeah, yeah. Um, can you discuss some of your favourite memorable sketches or routines from them? And why do you
Hmm.
think they've stood the test of time? I'm answering all my own questions here because you just said
We talked
mentioned them
about it,
before.
yeah. Well, I
But you
certainly,
must have a few favourites.
yeah, well, certainly, you mentioned the first one. My number one, which was also my father's number one, was Andre Previn.
Yeah,
And I think that we'd have to have a separate program to sort of deconstruct why that works so well. But basically, it was just brilliant from beginning to end. I love the fact, I think, also with Previn, is that you have the intimacy of just him and Ernie in front of the tabs. And by the end of the show, you got like a 25-piece orchestra at the back with the men and a grand piano. I just think, wow, aren't many comedy routines that do that. You know, you couldn't afford to make that nowadays.
yeah,
Yeah, so that in itself is just genius.
yeah,
Ernie Wise's favourite, and I would be pretty close to agreeing. I'd put it at number two, probably, is Singing in the Rain,
yeah, yeah.
where there's
He
no
was
rain.
brilliant in that.
So I just love the idea again, singing
Yeah,
in the rain, but we won't have any rain.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah, yeah,
how
yeah, yeah,
wonderful is that as
yeah,
as
yeah,
a
yeah, yeah,
idea?
yeah,
And again, the budget was so big, and they tried to recreate the whole look of Gene Kelly.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I
yeah,
think, again, hats off to the BBC on that one.
yeah.
But Eric and Ernie were brilliant in that. And it was Ernie's big singing piece as well. I think Ernie enjoyed that. So, but I think as a visual spectacle and the humour, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And then, of course, for me, then it'd be Shirley Bassey, I think.
Oh, yes, of course.
Mm,
The
yeah,
Wellington boot was just, you
yeah.
never saw that coming.
Or Burley Chassis, as Eric called it, which always made me laugh.
That was,
So, you look like a big Brillo pad. That's what he
yeah,
said.
yeah. So good, so good.
Yeah.
When they went to Thames in 1982,
79, but they began in 80, I think,
yeah,
the show. Yeah.
they must have thought, well, A, why did they go? And B, because they were on to such a good thing with the BBC.
Yeah.
But B, that they must have thought that the writing would be as good, and I don't
Yes.
know. It's still like baffling because they were still good there,
Yes.
but they'd
I
lost
think
some of it.
they only left for really for a change, but the change came about. It wasn't to do with money because they were
No.
fine on that front.
Yeah,
The change that came about that really made them want to go was Thames serenading them with the idea of making a movie.
right,
Because they hadn't made films since the 1960s with Rank, when
right.
they made the three
Yeah,
films.
yeah, yeah.
So I think
Which they were
that
fine. Those
yeah,
three films.
yeah, they were fine,
Yeah,
absolutely fine.
yeah,
But I think they felt, oh, let's take this further and do another one. And I think recently Thames have made Dennis Waterman and John Thor, the Sweeney movie.
yeah, yeah,
So I
yeah,
think they thought, wow, this could be done. You know, we could do a comedy.
yeah.
And of course, in fairness, that was just a little bit of a carrot. And then there was no effort, there was no production value, nothing put into the film.
This,
And the film was not even good for TV films,
no,
really.
no. They
So it
still
just
had
didn't
some
work.
great sketches at Thames, though. It was it
Oh,
Barry
yeah.
Cryer and John Junkin writing?
Yeah, and they did really well. And
Yeah.
Barry's a lovely man.
Yeah,
I
he's
loved
great.
Barry. He was great.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, some of the material was great. But then my mother then points out, of course, she says, what people forget is Eric then had a heart attack. So it was back to health issues.
Yeah,
So
bless
suddenly
him.
comedy and serious health issues aren't really good
Don't
bed
work
mates,
well. Yeah, yeah,
So it was kind of a downhill process from
yeah,
that, I
yeah,
think.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And by the end of it, I never really felt that they were putting their full energy or selves into it anymore. I
No,
don't know about you. I mean, I'm only going as a punter watching them on TV. I
I,
don't know.
I, I just remember laughing at them, whichever they were on. But I remember them moving to Thames, and there was certainly our family, like many others, worshipped them, absolutely
Yeah,
loved them. The whole this is
that's
another
lovely to
wonderful
hear.
thing about them. They appealed to everybody.
Yeah.
Um, but there was just something. It was like the laughter. It was more of sometimes a laughter track. It wasn't a genuine audience.
Yes.
It was like I don't want them because they know they're that good. I don't want them to keep going just for the sake of it.
Yeah,
And I
I
think it's a
agree.
shame if that
I think
was the
that was
case.
what was beginning to happen.
Yeah,
So you suddenly had someone whose health wasn't good.
yeah,
Ernie, by his own confessions, was struggling much, much more with learning lines.
yeah, yeah.
So he said he'd always struggled with that, but it was getting quite serious now.
Right.
So I think you put those two things together, straight away you haven't got the basis for a good comedy show.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
But what
yeah,
what they did at BBC when the absolute peak of their powers,
yeah,
that's how they're remembered,
yeah, yeah,
really.
yeah. That's why the BBC always show them.
Always.
You
And
never
why
get
other
ITV
companies show the
repeats.
BBC stuff.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Um, what was the significance of their appearances with guest stars, and how did those collaborations enhance their legacy? I think we've touched on it
Oh,
with
yes.
Andre Previn, but there were so many great guest stars.
Well, I think the guest stars were used more as a vehicle for more comedy, really,
Yeah,
and which has been emulated, a lot over the years. I mean, Stephen Merchant said that in Extras with Ricky Gervais, that they took the Morecambe and Wise idea and had guest stars who then didn't behave in the right way.
yeah,
And it's kind of, that's very Eric and Ernie. So it's just having them on. But also, I know that Eric and Ernie were very influenced from the days watching American TV, where people like Jack Benny and all that, they'd suddenly have Bing Crosby on and do some
yeah.
gagging together. So I think they thought, oh, this is good. You get other names on and then make yourself look stupid by not really knowing who they are. And that's what I love. I mean, I love that one where Alec Guinness, Sir Alec Guinness comes on and Eric turns to Ernie, watch out, there's a drunk come on. I mean, how can you
That's
be
so
rude?
good. I like Peter Cushing's one. I am getting paid for this, aren't I?
Yeah, keeping him waiting for his payment. Oh, that's wonderful.
What is magical about the guest stars is they clearly love to be ridiculed by them.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, they totally get it. And they're told at the beginning that you've got to play the part as if your agent's giving you the wrong gig. So,
Yes.
the agent's saying, oh, it's a Christmas show. You'll be fine. Go along and do that. And then within seconds, they think, what the hell am I doing on this? And that was how Eric and Ernie told them to behave. And all of
Brilliant.
them, bless them. I mean, Glenda Jackson was absolute
That's another
master at
one.
it.
Well, she got an Oscar for appearing with them.
That's right, showing that she had the comedy chops.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah.
And I still
Amazing.
think that going back to your earlier question, I still think that the Cleopatra sketch with her is one of my all-time favorites.
Yeah, yeah,
And ironically, that wasn't a Christmas show, that
yeah.
one.
Wow.
That was just from a series.
Yes, it was.
So,
Yeah,
that was a one that I would have thought Eddie Braben would have said, oh, let's save that for Christmas.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, but I thought that was brilliant.
So good. I can see why they love to be ridiculed, because it's now with me watching so many comedy shows. I used to sit at the back of the audience and think my laugh would carry because I've got a very loud laugh.
Yes.
Now, whenever I go to a comedy night, I sit on the front row. And I'm part of the routines. The comedians
brilliant.
will come on. Josh Widdicombe is one in particular who I love.
Yeah.
And he was doing a work in progress show, and he was talking about radio, listening to the radio, and he said to me, he said, Rich, he said, do you listen to the radio at all? I said, yes. I said, I like listening to Sounds of the 60s with Tony Blackburn. And he looked at me and he went, how on earth, how old are you? And of course, comedy was sprung straight
Yeah,
away. And I love being part of that. And that's how I've gotten to know them all through,
yes,
obviously,
yeah.
chatting, being very lucky chatting to them.
Did
But
you
I
ever
just
go
love
along and
being part of this wonderful comedy community. And it
have you
all
ever seen
started
Tim
off with
Vine
you.
live?
Say again?
Have you ever seen Tim Vine
Oh, he's
live?
superb. I know
He's
him well. Yeah,
he
I've
makes me
seen him
laugh
so
a
many
lot,
times
Tim.
over the years. He's so
Yeah,
good. Yeah, but it's this being part of it, and I can see with the guest stars they were lining up to appear with them.
yes, and they always say that the one that really convinced all the others was Glenda Jackson,
Yeah,
because they thought once she could go on, then they felt that someone who's such a thespian as Glenda, they all felt Penelope Keith said that. She said we
yeah,
all
yeah,
felt
yeah,
then that we should be doing this.
yeah.
This is what we need to do.
Who used to get the guest stars? Was it the producer?
Yeah, John
Yeah,
Almonds. Yeah, Johnny
yeah.
used to just ring up apparently, and he'd always say to Eric and Annie, they would say something like, "Well, wouldn't it be amazing if we got Glenda Jackson or Shirley Bassey?" And John would say, oh, "Leave it with me, leave it with me."
Wow,
And a day
what a
later,
nice
say,
person to know.
I've got,
Was there any that they would have liked and couldn't get, or any
yes.
that wouldn't appear?
Yeah, well, two people actually were very disappointed because I met up with Roger Moore, and I'm going back about 20 years ago,
Right.
and he described it as one of the greatest disappointments of his career.
Oh wow,
He
bless him.
said we could never time it that I could come and record because it's always to do with I'm doing the James Bond stuff. So,
Wow.
and he was so looking forward for one day at working, and of course it never did.
I saw him as a guest on the Right Sizes show about Morecambe
Oh,
and
brilliant!
Wise.
Yeah, that's where I met him.
And you could clearly see he loved it. He
Oh, totally.
absolutely loved it. And
Oh, he was a stalwart. He was filling in on Wet Wednesdays and Milton Keynes. He
yeah,
was
yeah, yeah.
incredible.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Was there any that they couldn't get, or any that refused to do it?
I think Michael Caine turned it down.
Right.
Yeah, but he was busy. But also, he did say that he loves Morecambe and Wise. He thinks
Yeah.
the shows are
There
fantastic.
wasn't anybody who said
He didn't want to be in
I
it.
don't like him. I'm not
No,
having it."
God,
No, no,
no.
no.
Everyone. It was more with the really big stars that were out doing Hollywood stuff. They just thought,
Yeah,
oh
yeah, yeah.
no, thank you for asking.
I always remember I had to do a training course. I don't know if I've told you this, but I talked about the career of Morecambe and Wise, and I did the dance and everything, and it was being recorded, and I had to. There was going to be questions asked afterwards, and this girl put her hand up and she went, "I don't like Morecambe and Wise," and I was mortified.
Oh,
And the trainer went, "Never think that what you talk about, everybody
Yes.
will love,
Yes.
because amazingly, some folk don't like them, and I think,
Yeah.
what? Why? They are
Well,
so
yeah,
joyous.
my father never had any issue with that, though. He always just said, all you can do is try and please most of the people.
Yeah.
So that's what he set out to do. He didn't expect everyone to like them.
No,
He really
no, but
didn't. So I don't know. I've still met people that are very nice people I've talked to, but you can tell they're not big fans at all.
I find that absolutely staggering. I really
Well,
do.
yeah, I do wonder myself a bit, thinking, well,
Yeah.
how can people so warm and nice?
Exactly.
How can you not like them? But there we go.
Exactly. How did they manage the transition from black and white to colour television, and how did it affect their style or audience reach? Did they get
that was a huge change, and that's what really drove them from ATV to BBC. Was BBC Two Colour. They were offered a series. That was the final carrot. We'll give you colour TV series. And they were so excited about that because the black and white era was clearly coming to an end, and they didn't want to be on the end of it.
Yeah.
So the colour was fantastic. Although, as my sister said, in the very first show they do in colour, they're wearing sort of like dirty brown coloured suits and a yellow shirt and a brown tie. They obviously didn't quite know about how colour worked.
They They wanted to go back to their roots.
I think so. There's something very, very odd about it. But they very soon started to jazz up the suits a bit and look much better.
Brilliant.
But yeah, no, that was just huge in their lives. That was the whole, and also it was the beginning of use, as you were implying, a new audience, a development. So they were expanding their reach, and that was also through the BBC, because BBC had such incredible reach. So suddenly they were getting amazing viewing figures, to the extent that those in the powers wanted to move them from BBC Two to BBC One, which is when that happened. And then in about 1969, Bill Cotton, he then said, well, why don't we try a Christmas show? And the response to that was so fantastic that then that was the beginning for the next 10 years.
Amazing. What personal qualities did Eric Morecambe and Ernie Wise bring to their performances that endeared them to generations of viewers? I think we've obviously touched on this. It's the warmth and the brotherly.
Yeah, the musical element as well.
Yeah.
They were almost like Strictly with laughs, weren't they? Really?
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
and people like that. People still like that.
Yeah.
So I think that, and as you say, the warmth element, I think that's what came through.
Yeah. It is an extraordinary legacy to be part of, because
it's incredible. It's incredible to me because it still goes on. You know, literally every day is like a working day with Morecambe and Wise for me. There's always stuff that has to be looked at, thought about, discussed. Whether it's repeats or whatever, or plans for next year. Centenary next year.
50 years next year, isn't it?
Yeah, 100 years for Eric. He would have been.
Would he? Oh, bless him! Would he have been 100 years old
in May next year?
Wow!
So there's going to be a lot going on around the country, particularly in Morecambe Bay.
Oh, I'm going to try and get to that.
And Gail and I will be doing a Q&A at the Winter Gardens. There you go.
In Morecambe?
Yeah, we will be there.
Do let me know.
I'll be answering questions.
I'll be in
like
the front row, definitely. That will be incredible.
Make sure you're there.
Oh, I'll be there, my friend. Definitely. How did they cope with the pressures and expectations of being Britain's top comedy act, particularly during their peak years?
Not very well, really. Ernie was fine with it. My father never really...
He had the health issues, obviously.
Well, even that apart, actually, it was more to do with going back to the early years and starting to make a healthy living.
Yeah.
I think he would have been happy with that.
Yeah.
He didn't want to suddenly become this kind of superstar type figure known by everyone. That really wasn't what he was after. He handled it very well, but and it's fine and it's lovely now, because with hindsight sort of thing. But no, in answer to your question, I think he had, he struggled with that, and the sackloads of letters coming through constantly and all that to the home. I don't think that was the side of the business he'd ever contemplated when he and Ernie were in digs trying to get work. It's a little bit different.
When he had his health scares, I read that he obviously did write, and he was passionate about his writing, and he had his bird watching. He had other interests other than the shows.
Well, I think
at his peak, it was all just the shows. I don't know.
Just comedy.
Yeah.
I think you're right. I think by 1980, when he was feeling quite ill, I think that writing the books was becoming more important than doing comedy.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
And that's very exciting now after all these decades. Next year, there's a TV series on the BBC, which is A Reluctant Vampire, which was his vampire novel.
Oh, they're doing it on the...
Oh, it comes out next year, hopefully about the time of his centenary, yeah.
Oh, that'll be amazing.
So we've had a lot of fun on location filming that. It's been great to watch. And the BBC have been fantastic with that, so we're really looking forward to it. And that's starring little Lenny Rush, who has brilliant...
Oh, superb. Oh, yeah, that'll be great.
He has a very, very good comedy timing.
Yeah, that will be so good.
Yeah.
Bless them all, it's so good. In what ways did the partnership influence subsequent generations of comedians and the British comedy landscape?
Well, the ones that I meet tell me they wouldn't have been in comedy if they hadn't had Eric and Ernie.
Exactly.
So, and you're talking people like Miranda Hart's told me that.
Yeah.
Lee Mack has told me that.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, there are others as well, not as quite as famous as that, that have been influenced and went into comedy because of that. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it, that the influence that people can have, and so far back.
It
And when
must
you've got
be.
someone like,
It must be so proud for you.
oh, it's wonderful when you hear these
You
these
know,
comments. Yeah,
that's extraordinary.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
even Reeves and Mortimer, you can see there
yeah,
was a lot
yeah,
of
yeah, yeah,
influence in their
yeah, yeah.
work.
Even Anton Deck, or
Oh, totally,
yeah,
totally.
yeah,
And Ant and Dec's story isn't that dissimilar.
yeah,
Two
yeah, yeah,
two two
yeah,
boys who are friends working separately, joined up together,
yeah,
go
yeah, yeah,
out.
yeah,
That
yeah,
that's Eric and Ernest's story in a nutshell.
yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
know.
Amazing. It's such a great story, and so many happy memories over the years.
Oh, it's wonderful. It's
Watching it.
such a happy and warm story as
Yeah,
well. That's
yeah,
what's so
yeah, yeah,
good.
yeah.
Gives you hope, doesn't it? It's
Very
that
much
kind.
so. Hope in a tough old world.
Yeah.
Um, what do you believe is the enduring appeal of Morecambe and Wise, and how should their legacy be remembered today?
I think the quality of their work is an enduring appeal.
Yeah,
I really do. I think it was the late producer Alan Yentov once said to me. He said that the shows were crafted, and he said there are not many people. You can't really repeat every Christmas. Let's show a Des O'Connor show or something, because it'll all be just jumping around different areas, or Valdunican or something. I mean,
yeah,
great,
yeah,
but they're all just bits,
yeah,
lots of
yeah,
little
yeah,
bits.
yeah,
Whereas with Eric and Ernie, you've got these complete showpieces from
yeah.
beginning, middle, end. There's your showpiece. So you can put those out in their entirety. And I think that speaks a lot. I think the quality of the shows, the budget, the money that was put into it, particularly by the BBC to make them so well honed, the team that worked on them, and Eric and Ernie themselves, who probably are the best double act that's ever been, to be honest, in my
Without a
humble
doubt,
opinion.
without a doubt.
Yeah.
I've said that many times over the years. What I love about them is when I watch them again and again and again, I laugh out loud. I don't just go, oh,
Yes.
yes, we said it before. I've seen this before, but there is something.
Yes.
There's something they've got. Both of them have got funny bones.
Yeah.
I mean, it's legendary that if your dad can twiddle his glasses, he gets a laugh.
Yeah, I know.
It's extraordinary. It's
It is
extraordinary.
extraordinary. There's been nothing like it,
Yeah,
really.
yeah, yeah. Christmas isn't Christmas without them,
I
as you
agree.
said. But there's so many great sketches in their
Yeah.
series as well. They're
Yeah.
so good. And I think what I love about it as well is that there are still plays, there are still books, there is
Yes.
still people are still interested in them. I
Yes.
saw The Last Laugh. I think I said this last time. The Last Laugh has done wonderful
Wonderfully well.
for them. Um, your books, I have two or three of your books
That's
on
good to
my
hear.
bookshelf. This is the latest one,
That's it. That's
which
the
I
last
have
one I'll ever
yet to
do.
read. I've just bought it, and on the back of it, it says, "I've been a Morecambe and Wise fan since turning 5."
Yes.
Ditto.
Oh, that's good to hear. You and me both.
So yeah, please keep doing what you do, writing the books
Oh,
and
thanks, Richard.
promoting them,
Yeah.
because I could talk genuinely. I could talk to you all day, and it,
Well,
and
we
if
will in
you
Morecambe
well, I will see you in Morecambe. Definitely, it's May, isn't it?
in May. Yeah, check it
Do
out.
let me know. I shall. We'll sort it all out. But
Lovely.
I will definitely come and see them there. As I say, please keep doing what you do. It's lovely to see you on TV, still promoting
Thank
them.
you.
Give
Thanks.
my best to Gail, and I
Will
hope
do.
she still keeps going around the country
She
promoting them as
does.
well.
She's still out there doing the stuff.
As you say, it's such a wonderful story and a fantastic legacy. It's been a joy talking to you.
And
As
to
I
you,
say, I could
Richard.
talk to you all night. Have a very happy Christmas. Couldn't be a better
Thank you,
time
and
to
you.
talk about them, and I'll be watching over the holidays.
Good
You
man.
take care, my friend, and so good to talk to you.
And you. Take care.
All the best. Thank
Bye.
you.